is the Elevated Look Show, hosted by Mark Stampfly.
Welcome, Nathan. It's good to have you on this podcast. It's great to have you here, Nathan. The vibe of this show/podcast is marketing, entertainment, and everything in between. And I think you fit into that really well. And we're excited to have you on the show and kind of hear what you're up to. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay.
Do you wanna first just kind of give for people who aren't familiar with who Nathan Baesel is? Do you want to give a little bit of background or a history on who you are?
Well, many people are still trying to get to the bottom of that question, but I'd say roughly I am a person who acts, and that's where I've done a lot of my work has been in acting. I went to UCLA and Juilliard and worked in TV and film and stage, and then I started teaching acting, and then I started at a company called Original Productions in post-production.
There's some cool people over there.
Yeah, where I made some great connections, you being one of them.
A little deeper into that later.
Sure. Yeah, and then a little over a year ago, everything fell apart. The world fell apart.
Pandemic.
Yeah, there was a pandemic. And then,
I think there still is.
Yes, it's still happening.
Maybe on its way down.
Yeah, I was really thinking that everything was just going to magically get fixed January 1st of 2021. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that was not.
I think a lot of people were thinking that.
And it does still feel like the goalposts are getting pushed, but I at least have a lot more confidence that the goalposts are being manned by responsible referees, and that helps a lot for peace of mind and just confidence that things will work out soon.
One of the first things I wanted to ask you, which I don't think I ever did ask you. I mean, we've talked a lot. You know, we go pretty far back. What was it, like 2000?
10 years?
Yeah.
12?
Yeah, like 2000. I guess maybe we could talk about that first, actually.
No, 8 years.
So what I did is I tried to look up, like, what was like the absolute first picture I had of you.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it was this one. It was this one, and we'll show it on the show. But yeah, this was back when I had just started at Original. I don't know how long you had been there at that time.
I think I was there about a couple years before you got there.
Yeah, you were kind of already established.
A little bit.
And I had kind of just gotten into the system, and I remember like seeing you around there. I didn't really know who you were, but we were all in the post-production department. So I kind of started hearing, oh yeah, this guy, he's an actor and he does this, and I didn't know really who you were, but some of the other coworkers were telling me about it, and they're like, oh, let's have a get together and watch Nathan's movie. And honestly, at first I was just, oh God, not another one of these. Like, I came, in studying film.
I don't want to do those.
Yeah.
That's why it hadn't happened all of that time.
Yeah.
Until then.
But I mean, that was pretty early on, and I remember thinking, like, oh God, like I hate when people like, oh, I have to watch their short film or their independent movie, and I'm just like, how shitty is it going to be? But the thing was, when we watched it...
How am I going to find pleasant comments to make about something that's such a pile of crap?
I actually liked it. It was actually good. It was actually, like, entertaining, so it was actually surprising. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy actually, he can act, and... I mean, that was even better than the movie itself. Like, your acting was shined, like, greatly through that. So, like, the acting, I'm like, oh, wow, this guy can really act. Like, he's really good. So it was a little bit of a surprise, knowing that, okay, it's not going to be, some kind of lame student project. This is actually like a real thing, and actually has a huge following behind it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Original Productions has been, I've got such a funny relationship with it because it's been responsible for saving my family and, being able to pay bills and rent and this and that, but yeah, it's a career diversion from acting, and you can't do one full time without it impacting the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that something like when you started there, was your acting career, were you putting it kind of on hold, or was it
Pretty
something where you're
much.
like actually, because I remember, I don't know if you remember our mutual friend, Andrew McGinnis. He was, he was an actor who was also working at Original Production at the time. He ended up doing like a big Super Bowl commercial, he was kind of balancing both lives. And I don't know if that was something that you originally went in there thinking like, okay, I'm going to balance like, the 9 to 5, but
Well, the
also
first
like,
job I took there was a logging job, and that was a night job, and it allowed
right.
me my days free so that
Yeah.
I could do auditions and whatnot, and if a job came along that allowed me to jump off, I had the confidence in knowing that there was something waiting for me there when I got back.
That's true.
That's huge,
Yeah,
As
that's
an
very big.
actor, a lot of what you're doing is you're waiting in between jobs,
Yep.
You're just waiting, and if you can fill that waiting time with industriousness, however you do that, well, that's just going to keep you in a better place as an actor, as an artist, that kind of thing. So that's what Original Productions was for me, was a way to get by in between jobs, and then it became my job. A job offer, a staff job of a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job,
Yeah.
where you know that if you take this, you're not going to be able to step away without consequence. That, for all intents and purposes, took me away from acting, but I didn't see it as that. I saw it as saved me from acting, because acting was, up to that point, when you're working, it's awesome. But so much of the time is not working, and I don't thrive under those
In the
conditions.
downtimes. How do people actually successfully do that then? Like where they are going to thrive during the downtime?
Exactly.
Is it more of just like a money management thing, or is it is
Exactly.
it also kind of just being, or I guess being more proactive to kind
And
of do
it's
projects?
going to be completely unique to each individual. But it is money management. It is finding a second job. It is keeping busy with creative projects. That's something that I really only began understanding recently, relatively, is that is something that I need to do, and in order to do it, I have to be a lot more focused and intentional about it, because I don't naturally. You're a very industrious person. That's something I've always appreciated about you, and
I have my moments.
and admired and kind of wondered about you, is that you're always working on something. You've always got something that you're chugging along with, It's usually more than one thing. It's usually multiple things,
And that's my problem. I think that when I really dive into one thing specifically, I thrive at a very, very high level. But my problem is I just get so either bored or just lose motivation doing that. That for me, I kind of have to have a lot of things going to almost like amuse myself.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a balance of like, well, when it's too much. But I tend to go the route of going more and then cutting back, rather than going too less and being unhappy.
So you're there on the spectrum. I'm on the other side of the spectrum.
I guess.
And I'm realizing,
kind of.
and working on it. Really, you have influenced me in that I use my time now to further my creative interests. And I do local plays, with local theater, or I do some teaching, or I do writing. I've taken that up as well, and it's in my vocabulary now, whereas it used to just not be something that
Well, here's the thing too.
I would go into acting because I didn't have to do anything but show up, and somebody else is doing all the work. All I got to do is learn words and then show up.
But you enjoyed the process, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But somebody else figuring out the logistics, that was always critical for me.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Working the logistics myself, it wasn't in my wheelhouse, and so I'm having to exercise.
Well, maybe it isn't.
muscles.
I mean, that's the thing I kind of like try to stress to people too is, do stuff that you want to do. Like, if you are trying to add things in just to add things in, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that. I would say, there's a point where laziness can catch up with you if you're like trying to get things done, but do the things you want to do. So it's like, okay, I want to get more plugged into the acting scene, or I want to write this script, then, you can, but if you really want to do it, you're going to make time for it, I think, anyway. There's definitely discipline involved. But I think a lot of people sometimes just try to fill their time just to fill their time. And that's not necessarily going to make you any happier, with your life.
Right. Reading stories about what your favorite actor, did to, that's great that it worked for them. But if it's not addressing your specific needs, then, it's kind of just mapping somebody else's process onto yours, and it's not going to take, because it's not organic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you can kind of pick and choose. Like, for instance, if you read a book, a lot of people, want to read it like front to back. And I think there's, like, if you're reading a narrative story, obviously you're going to do that. But if you're reading something that's more like educational,
that you read from back to front now? Is this where
actually, it's a new method. Yeah. No, but if it's like something that's more like educational and like a value-based book, I would not waste time reading chapters that don't apply to me or that aren't interesting to me. Like, why waste the space and energy and time to do that, to spend time reading that, when I can just, kind of choose the parts that I'm actually really interested in and actually really want to, like, bring into my life. Like a Google search, like, you're going to search for things that you want to learn about versus, like, okay,
Well, I think what you're describing is something that I believe is true, which is that, discipline is required so that we're not lazy bastards, but that a great way to achieve discipline, to motivate oneself towards discipline, is by working on projects that excite you and interest you and that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. Well, going back to kind of the question that I don't think I ever asked you, that I'm curious about is, and I'm sure you probably haven't asked a lot, but like, what did get you into acting to begin with? Like, was there a moment in time that kind of brought you into thinking about either being an actor or like just in being curious about it? How did that all come about?
Yeah, I grew up doing a lot of acting stuff and singing stuff in church.
Okay.
So there it was kind of, getting just comfortable in front of a crowd, that kind of thing. And then by high school, my brothers started doing it, my older brothers. And I was watching them in shows, and I guess I was just kind of following in their, footsteps, doing what they were doing.
When you first went into college, were you wanting to be an actor?
I spent.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure.
I spent 4 years at the junior college trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do.
Okay.
And
that's what junior college is for.
That is what it's for.
So you actually use it well. Like people who, say.
Well, I don't know. I could have been a little more intentional. 4 years is usually, it's 2 years.
But better to figure it out. I'd say better to spend that time, because the thing is, you're not going to go. It's very difficult to go back to junior college or to go figure it out later. Yeah. A lot of people don't do that. So I would almost suggest. Take those years. In your 20s is so early these days.
I have a 17-year-old who's trying to figure out what he wants to do for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Because he's at an age in life where older children, young adults are
figuring it out.
Yeah, are being forced to declare who they are, what they're all about, and what they want to make their money doing for the rest of their life. And I mean,
but I think
he's intimidated by it.
I think that's almost too much pressure to put on a kid.
Well,
like
I
these
was
days.
in exactly the same place as him, and so I went to the community college because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I spent 4 years though because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was checking different stuff out, and I was finding out what I could make money doing that was interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to make money to survive. So
right.
You kind of want to see if you can align your interest with actual, like, a successful career path.
Yeah. And then ultimately,
so what was that?
I just went. I went both feet into acting because I felt like I feel like it's easier for me than
most people don't think money when they think acting. So
don't.
The fact that 4 years
and you see they'd be wrong
to say I'm trying to figure out how to make money.
The world of acting isn't just so flush with cash that it's raining. It's literally raining money off acting trees. I think people are drawn into acting, yes, for financial reasons and, for fantasy reasons of thinking like, oh, I'm going to be the one, I'm going to break through, I'm going to this and that, I'm going to be recognized. But I think also because
Was the fame part of something that you like? Was that attractive?
I absolutely
It's always
was.
attractive?
Oh yeah, it always was. You know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Until recently,
I think for most people.
I think I've slayed that beast.
Oh, really?
I think so. I think so. But yeah, people see, you know, represented in TV and movies, you know, online now, content. You know, I could do that.
Was it competitive? Like, did your brothers? I don't really know much about your brothers. Did they end up going further in that path, or they actually stopped and you're the one who went
Yeah.
forward? And was it different? Like once you realized they weren't, was there like kind of I don't know. You know how like sometimes you think like, oh okay, like say you see like your mentor, your idol, and they kind of switch paths and you're like, huh? I thought we were doing this, you know? Like, and you're kind of on different paths, and because you're so close and connected to them.
No, I think if anything, they were able to kind of vicariously live their fantasies out through my career and work, and I think they've taken, you know, delight in what I did. My younger sister, she did acting too in high school, but she didn't continue on after, and so I think for all of them, for my parents too, I think I was kind of living out their fantasies of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, you know, I remember I was doing a TV show for a while, and
I don't know your parents too well, or I didn't know them too well, but I thought they were very much more like conservative based on what you've told me in the past.
oh yeah, but my dad loved movies.
Oh, really? Okay.
Loved movies.
Oh.
He was always talking in movie quotes,
That's pretty cool.
and all of his quotes were from Top Gun somehow. But yeah, no, he that's how he kind of related to the. He used to teach a Sunday school class, and I would hear people recounting that
Top Gun quotes.
Yeah, he
in
cited
Sunday
some
school?
kind of Top
hilarious.
Gun scene to help make his point. That, yeah, no, they loved, you know, and were fascinated by entertainment, and to the extent that I was involved with it, they were interested, and you know, I brought them to set for a show that I was doing once where I get all beat up and I've got this prosthetic, you know, stuff on, and they were just so interested in the process and in talking with people who were involved in different jobs. And my dad was always like that, just finding out what somebody does, and like, so what is that job? Tell me what that job is.
Yeah.
He's got a job to do, actually, Dad. He's got to go right now, but tell me what that job is. What is it that you do? You know, my dad was like that.
Interesting. I know you've been asked like behind the mask questions, so I don't necessarily want to spend a whole lot of time on that but I do feel like we do need to at least ask like the update, like before the mask, right? Like what is there? Is there anything going on with before the mask right now?
Is that I was going for a run yesterday, and I was stopped by somebody who pulled their car over.
Oh, wow.
To tell me how much they loved the movie.
And that's what's always interesting. I remember you hearing that about you before, and how people were coming up in tears to some of these conventions.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
And I mean, that must still be kind of flattering, even.
Oh,
you know.
It's totally flattering. It's totally flattering. It's gratifying to have been involved in a project that will stand the test of time. You know?
Yeah.
That you can point to, and you can go, that represents me, and it represents me fairly well, and well. And yeah, it was the thing really that allowed me to step away from acting when I did.
It kind of gave you a lot of freedom at that time?
Yeah, I felt like I've done it. I felt like I did what I went into acting to do.
You kind of accomplished a dream in doing that, right?
Yeah.
Having a feature film. And
if this is walking away, I'm okay to do that. You know, I've had different thoughts since then, and I've come around and been continuing to evolve, and I'll get back into it. But yeah, it was that the strength of that movie that really allowed me to walk in a new direction, explore a new path.
When you think back to that movie now, like it sounds like you're very thankful for it. You're very nostalgic and grateful for it. Does it bring anything else back? Like thinking back about kind of that time in your life, is it far removed? Is it still kind of present in your world?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't talk about the movie without talking about the fact that that I was tremendously disappointed that the movie didn't do better than it did. And
It did a lot better though after the. It's so much bigger now than it was when it first came out.
I mean, that's with so many movies,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, it was really something that I was counting on to further my career, and then I discovered that I was going to be responsible for the next phase of my career, that I wasn't going to be able to leverage something, and that made it a little more of an uphill battle.
That's a really good point though too. Like, I think there's a lot of people that go into whatever they're doing, whether it might be something in entertainment, like for this example, where they think like, okay, once I make that big thing, then it's cruise control. But that's always just a bad mindset to have. If you really love what you do, you enjoy the process, and you're gonna keep going, you're gonna keep doing other things. And a lot of people do, like, I mean, you actually, which I was gonna get into more, you actually ended up doing more stuff even after that.
Right.
But it's very interesting
But
how you
I
see
think
the
what you're talking
fall-off.
about is something that I had, which was an infection. It was a slight infection, and it was an infection of entitlement. And I had to cook that off.
Yep.
And I had to go through a fever.
Okay. Yeah.
In order to get to a more humble place where I wasn't going to get handed a thing that I was going to have to hustle. And I did not go into acting because hustle is a strong suit for me. I went into acting because it was easy.
It comes naturally to you. I think that side of like the easiness got you into it, but then now once you do get into it, like, do you have the passion to like you said, hustle to get the next
Yeah, I was
gig?
thinking about that recently, about how an attribute has been both my monster and my saving grace, which is impulsiveness.
I have that one too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. I think that might be why we've been
It could be.
such good friends.
It could be.
That impulsive
We've left a lot
nature,
of evidence around town of
oh yeah, we've gone on some adventures.
some adventures.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's that, it's that spark, it's that unquantifiable X factor kind of thing, is what a person's raw, unrefined impulse, and I have very little distance between the origination of the impulse and the expression of the impulse when it comes to acting, and that's a very fantastic quality. But in life, not reviewing an impulse before it's expressed can lead to problems, and has. So yeah, that's some of what this COVID period has been about.
Getting back to kind of like after Behind the Mask, you got into a show, I don't know if you talk about too much, called Invasion. Mm-hmm. How many years after, when did that come into play?
That was right on the heels.
That was right on the heels.
I think it
did
that
that into because you had that other one, and then
here we go.
that's
here we
interesting.
go. Yeah, I mean, I remember that season was wrapping up, getting close to wrapping up, and Behind the Mask was just coming out, and I just felt like, oh, okay.
So Behind the Mask was done,
step.
right? And then you had jumped into Invasion. Mm-hmm. I remember you kind of telling me a little bit. Maybe you can tell everybody like the casting process. Like, how did it sounded?
Of Invasion?
Yeah.
Well, I was playing a one-armed character, and it was obvious in the script, And it was just maybe a couple scenes that we were given for the audition. But it was pretty obvious that either they're green screening a two-armed actor so that they can do a reveal, which seemed like or they're mistakenly casting two-armed actors. It seemed obvious for me that what I was, going to have to portray was somebody who had the use of one arm, So I tucked it behind my back, and I noticed in the audition room that nobody else was doing that. I was like, okay, I'm really I'm either crashing and burning, just walking through the door before I've even said a word. I'm either crashing and burning, or I'm conveying a sense of a clearer.
Were there
sense for the
any
guest.
like actual like if you had a disability and you were gonna get like the part of your the job of your lifetime here as the one-armed person, like was there anybody there that literally did have one arm, or it was just all two armed?
It was all two-armed actors, and I thought maybe they just don't have a whole lot of outreach in the handicapped community, or I didn't know, but yeah, it seems fairly obvious that this was how I was going to try to make an impact. As it was, I only had the one arm for one episode, but the rest of the season, I had it tucked up behind me, and man, that was
really. So you were
uncomfortable.
filming as one up. You were literally just.
I
tucking behind you?
think that might have been actually why I got the job as opposed to maybe some other people, was because I offered them an ability to shoot practically without effects.
You save them a lot of money.
You save a lot of money.
That's a
And
good
so,
thing.
already I was working on angles, and I could shift myself around so that, based on where the camera is,
Yeah.
I've got a second eye for that. And I think that they saw, okay, we'll be able to pull this off. And there were only 2 episodes, I think, in all that we ever used any green screen stuff for, and that was so that we could do bare-shirted stuff to suggest even more of the lack of the arm.
Interesting. And did you guys shoot mostly on the Warner Brothers studio lot? So that was one thing that connected in my mind before this
Warner
interview.
Brothers. Because you were working there, you were interning.
I
there
was
before.
interning. That I had just I was either just in my last senior year of college, or had just gotten out. I mean, it could have been either of those times,
Yeah.
but that was.
We were probably wandering around the streets at the
That's
same
why,
time.
yeah, we probably could have run into each other. I remember seeing what's his name, William Fitchner in the commissary very often. I don't know if but it's very possible that we crossed paths way before we met, because we were always walking around the lot.
Yeah, that was a neat studio, huh?
Love that studio.
A lot of history.
Oh boy, yeah. Favorite. I mean, you know how it was funny because I saw in a Facebook group I was in that people were saying, like, what's your home studio? And for me, that's Warner Bros. Because I kind of grew up there. That kind of introduced me to like the real Hollywood. Like you had, everyone's making, you could be in Kansas making a short film or independent feature. But once you like really see the studio system, it kind of exposes you to like another side of things.
Yeah.
And so for me, like Warner Brothers was it. Like that's where I interned with Joel Silver's company, Silver Pictures, which was like the biggest action movie studio, probably still is. In
Yeah,
terms
plus
of
he
history.
did a bunch of TV too, Cold Case.
He did Veronica Mars. The TV department was growing, and I really enjoyed it. It was like a very inspirational place. Like outside of like kind of using it as, a career path, it was actually a very like inspirational place to kind of be and wander around. Like the backlots there are amazing. I don't know if you've been watching WandaVision, but WandaVision, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh wow, they're not even trying to hide this. Like this is like specifically like the Warner Brother backlot.
Oh, that's
so
neat.
It's pretty, like even the water tower and everything.
That's funny.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I always love that lot. Always my favorite lot.
Yeah, mine too.
We had some funny enough, like when I was in college, some of our classes met at Fox Studios. And so I would go over there,
is
but
nice.
it's nice, but it's nothing. I don't know. It doesn't have the, doesn't have that. What is it? What is the difference? Like
It is.
it's
the Batman collection.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Even outside of that kind of museum experience that they did with the, I think it was the 75th anniversary. Even outside of that,
I don't know.
they have a permanent collection up.
There it is. So
Yeah.
So for the people who can't see the picture, or we'll pull the picture up, but that was we were at work. We were at Original Productions, and we decided to take a lunch break at the Warner Bros. Studios lot. Funny enough,
I think you had passes.
I had some friends that still worked over there, and so we ended up going over during lunch break to go check out the Batman exhibit, and
It
man,
was
that was actually really cool.
It was impressive.
It was really impressive.
And then
It's a
on
whole
the
floor.
second floor, they had the Harry Potter.
The Harry Potter, yeah, the Harry Potter was like kind of always like their thing. Like that was like, oh, let's go see the Harry Potter museum. But the fact they got a whole floor just for Batman was pretty cool.
And the stuff that they had in this collection. I mean, it spanned from '89 Batman to Dark Knight.
Yeah, so that was man, I don't know. That had to be like at least what 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah. It was the 75th anniversary, I think.
Is that what it was? Yeah, you're actually more aficionado than I mean, I love Batman. He's actually my favorite superhero, but I think you're a little bit more well versed in his whole like contextual background and history.
Batman.
Yeah.
I like Batman.
Your son Nate, he's kind of getting into acting, right? How is that? How has that been for you? Like, is that something? I mean, you're a very like encouraging person, like to people follow their stuff, but at the same time, you've seen that journey of what it looks like and how difficult and good and bad. Like, what do you think about seeing your son kind of follow in your footsteps?
I think, well, and the younger one too, Jonas.
He's as interested in it as well.
Well, he's been doing acting.
Okay.
I think that I have been not actively discouraging, but certainly not encouraging.
Okay.
Apart from acknowledging them on their work, and that's always fun. But I think that as a result, neither of them see the acting as a career that is really encouraging for them. And I think it's part of the reason why my 17-year-old is worrying so much about what he's going to do with the rest of his life, because I think if you asked him now, what are you going to do? Decide now.
Actor.
He would have to say that probably.
Wow. That's pretty cool,
Because
though.
I think for him it's just kind of easier than it is for some people, and I think that's what he would be inclined to say is acting. But I think he's also got a very strong voice in his head that's saying don't go into acting, because it's very hard to make sustain a career with. And even though I haven't said that to him, I am sure that I've suggested that to him through the difficulties I've talked about in my career.
Is he graduating this coming spring?
Next year.
Next year. So he's got one more year.
He's got one more year.
He's on his junior year, he's going to senior year.
Yep.
Okay, so he's still got, that's so early, honestly.
But I get
so
it.
early.
I get it, man. I get it. You gotta, your friends start declaring who they are and what they're into, and they start passionately, following a route, and it starts feeling like you're getting left behind if you don't have that kind of thing.
Some of the stuff I wanted to ask you about was, I think it actually applies to a lot of like the elevated look audience is, well, I guess first, where do you see the future of acting going? Like, what do you think it looks like? I mean, it's obviously, we're in a pandemic, things are different already. Right. I'm even myself was holding Zoom auditions in summer for some of my projects. Like, where do you see things going? Like, where do you see the whole industry going? Like Hollywood, like is Hollywood even going to be a thing? Is it just the sign now on the hill, or is it something where it's like, okay, people are still coming to LA to, get their feet wet and fulfill their American dream?
Right. Yeah. That's a lot of interesting questions. Where is the industry going? Not back to normal. I mean, if normal ever existed, we're not going back to that, because the Zoomification of America over the last year, it has been out of necessity, but it's also opened up some doors of convenience that people are enjoying now, having access to opportunities and to audiences that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. I don't think we're going back to everything's happening in an audition room with a waiting room full of actors.
You don't think the future, like for say like a big Warner Brother feature film, people are going to the lot?
Absolutely, it's going to be a hybrid.
Yeah.
But this, Zoomification is going to be a component going forward, and so I think that it, in general, offers actors more of an access to opportunity. But in certain ways, it just kind of complicates problems that were already there. Yeah, so...
How so? What do you mean by complicates problems?
The obvious problem being you're waiting till the next audition opportunity for your next job possibility, right? So maybe you can get in an audition more than you might have in non-COVID times. When things get back up to speed, hopefully the audition opportunities will be there. But
have you tried auditioning since? Because I know you're kind of plugging back a little bit more into the acting world, or maybe you're not at this time. But is it?
Last year was going to be
that was going to be the year.
One of my one of my New Year's resolutions for 2020 was going to be I'm going to get back into acting. But yeah, that got pushed into 2021, and it's getting pushed a little further out. What I think is that there is more opportunity there, but the standing problem has always been, what do you do with your downtime? How are you going to engage yourself so that you're staying creatively busy, you're staying career-y busy, that you're keeping the ball rolling. Okay. And that was the problem before, and it's going to continue to be the problem. So in some things are changing, and some things will never change.
So with all that being said, then what advice would you give to like the next generation of actors that's coming up during this time? Like, what would be your advice to them?
What are you doing? What do you got on your to-do list? Are you making a to-do list? And are you checking things off? Just very basically making a phone call or sending a letter to an agent or to, a director friend that you worked with in school, checking up, checking in. Making time in an evening to, instead of turn on the TV, maybe turn on some music and do some writing, or maybe journaling, or maybe not doing anything, quiet contemplation.
Like, what would you say for somebody who maybe isn't an actor yet, but is interested? Like, what steps could they take to, like how do they start? Like, what would be like some tips to really like just get started, like just to start? Like, because is school even a thing? Like,
it is.
Is acting school? I kind of go back and forth because, I studied TV and film in college. Like, I kind of knew about a year into it that's what I wanted to do. But now with so much, education and resources being online, the connections were, fantastic, and it's hard to beat that, especially if you go to a school like USC. I didn't go there, but if I have a lot of friends that went there, and I know you get kind of a lot of great connections. And I actually got a lot of connections from my school. And my school is a smaller school for entertainment. But what would you say to somebody who's like starting out? Would you say, hey, go to Juilliard like Nathan Baesel did, or would you say, hey, start studying online? Like, I don't know. I'm just curious to kind of hear your 2 cents on that.
Well, I'd say yes, you can there's so much information that's online, and there's no reason why you can't be studiously pursuing a goal of acting even without schooling, But it's the difference between experiential breakthroughs and intellectual breakthroughs. If I'm online and I read something that is making an impact on me, and a famous director or famous actor has a quote, and it's it strikes me, and it really kind of opens up. It's an aha moment. A light bulb goes off. Those are fantastic. Those are fantastic. They tend to be intellectual breakthroughs where they don't necessarily shift your way of seeing everything, but they do kind of reorganize your thinking, And experiential breakthroughs are the ones where you're in it, and you're striving over something, and you maybe either have a success or you have some kind of failure, but you're working, you're in the work, and it's a lot of times it's not until you're on the other side of like a crisis in the work, and you're looking back at it going, holy crap, I grew so much in that moment, in that single moment.
Is there anything, like, what do you want to plug in your world? Like, what's going on? Like, do you have any projects that you're excited about right now to tell everybody? Do you want people to follow you on Instagram or TikTok? You know, what?
I don't have anything to plug. I have social media that I'm not really, so...
You go back and forth.
I do, but I feel like this is a more recent, and it feels like a kind of hopefully permanent phase where I'm just turning to social media less for a sense of assurance of people's awareness of and liking for me than to tune into other folks and what's going on with them, and kind of like what you were talking about earlier, that work that's oriented around a self-interest. It has that
telling.
It has that feel to it.
Yeah.
But work that's for serving others.
Like, is there anything with the Behind the Mask sequel for anybody? Like, anybody who's interested in following, or?
All the social media pages for Behind the Mask, Vernon's Farmhouse. We sell the gear, and there's some fun stuff on there. The comic book, actually, I think you can buy on there again.
Very cool.
And the comic
And that's
book,
an extension?
It's it was a sequel script that was written for the purposes of just, we were doing a crowdfunding thing, let's raise enough money to clear this hurdle, and then we can get some investors in, and let's make this screenplay. Well, we didn't make our cap, so we didn't get any of it, and so we were just
the Indiegogo.
Yeah, and so now this script that's timely, that isn't going to age well, because it's referencing current trends in the genre and that kind of thing. Well, that's going to just collect dust and then very soon be irrelevant. And somebody had the idea, and fantastically so, to translate it into a comic book series. And so they got it into a format, graphic novels, comic books, that horror translates very well there. And we were able to get that script produced, but as a comic book.
Okay.
Yeah, something a little more substantial than that, a little more filmic than that. I think that's not terribly too far off. I've been writing, in fact, some of the writing that I've been doing has been writing episodic series of an extension of that world.
Do you think if the brand came back, do you think it would be in the form of another movie, or do you think it'd be more in the form of like a mini series or a TV show?
The way I think of it is TV. I mean, I don't see our from the beginning, making a film has been so difficult, and I'm not even on the part of the team that's about doing that hustle, but I saw how critical it was to the process firsthand, and how it's very difficult to get the resources together, and so if you can just do with less resources, and TV is, or even webisodes, it's a medium that translates very well there. You can get projects together on a as long as you're nimble, you can make resources stretch.
I mean, I think if the creatives had the passion for it and were really serious about it, I think you could definitely, and you have a story, as long as you have the actual content there. I mean, there's so many outlets. You could start on social media. You could start on the internet. You could who knows? Maybe even get a straight deal to one of the like OTT platforms. So I think it's definitely there. It just kind of depends on,
You have to get the band back together.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to get
that's the key.
and that's kind
That's
of where
part of the thing.
I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Is I finish a script and I send it out. What do you think?
So did you make a sequel script, like full-fledged?
Not a film. No.
Oh, okay.
Like episodes.
Like a pilot episode.
More
of a
like
sequel?
webisodes. Yeah, I mean, kind of 8-minute features, 10 minutes.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting to me about it is that it's if Behind the Mask, what was impactful about it was you were getting these guys who wear the masks and do what they do to take it off and to share one-on-one. Why don't we do that with more? I was struck by convention that I went to about 3 years ago, and there was a guy there who had played Mike Myers in Halloween 4, Halloween 5, and he was just an interesting dude. And he was from the stunt actor world. That's what he knew was stunts and this and that. And he came into this kind of by accident, but now he's throwing a mask on, and now he's Michael Myers, and he's, in his 70s, and he's doing the convention circuit and everything
Pretty
like
cool.
that. Yeah, it's very cool. However, it's kind of like the Greatest Generation. Some of these guys, they're going away. They're some of them are dying. And these stories that they're taking with them is, they could fill books and books and books. And so my idea was Leslie sitting down with these guys and just, oh my God, tell me how you do what you do. And so that's a fun idea that's been really neat to kind of flesh out.
I like that a lot, actually. That's very creative.
So you get to reference the monsters, but you can reference actual people and what they actually did.
And it's still through your Leslie Vernon's perspective.
Yeah, and you get to cross over those realities, the one in which we operate and the one in which we've seen these movies and understand these movies and these characters and this and that, and you can blur them.
Very good.
I'll keep coaching, teaching, whatever, until I can get my acting career back up and running again.
It's coming, man.
Yeah.
You're very talented still, and I know you have a lot of passion to share. So I'm excited, even just not as a friend, but even as a fan, and for all the other fans out there to see kind of what you do next.
I'm interested too, because a lot of what was holding me down and holding me back was a lack of understanding back then. I think a lack of, I don't know. I've had a lot of time to reflect, a lot of time to,
It's just that knowledge. Yeah, you have
self-knowledge.
You definitely have.
I've had so much opportunity to gain self-knowledge. This acting mechanism is so much more unified as an expressive entity, as I'm so much more capable and equipped, as both as a creative person, as an artist, as an expressive entity, and also as a human being navigating the career entity. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
We will be watching, man. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on Elevated Look.
Thank you for having me.
Very happy to have you here and learn even more about you than I didn't already know.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for watching the Elevated Look show, and we would really, really appreciate if you leave a review and subscribe.